So you guys got your own office.
Good evening. I'd like to call the March 18th meeting, March 18, 2019 meeting of the University Heights City Council to order. Mrs. Thomas, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Rush?
Here.
Mr. Wiseman?
Here.
Mrs. Sims?
Here.
Mrs. Carney?
Here.
Mr. Erdl? Mrs. Hammond? Present. Mrs. Wise?
Here.
Is there a motion to excuse Mr. Erdl?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Mr. Wiseman?
Aye.
Mr. Sims?
Aye.
Mrs. Carney?
Aye.
Mrs. Hammond? Aye. Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Erdl is excused. Will all those who are able please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. I would ask for a motion to table the minutes from the last meeting. Mrs. Thomas was out of the office for much of last week at a conference, so the minutes are not yet ready for approval. So there's a
moved.
motion. Second. Okay, motion by Mr. Wiseman, second by Mr. Sims. Mrs. Thomas, we call the roll.
Mr. Rush?
Aye.
Mr. Wiseman?
Aye.
Mr. Sims?
Aye.
Mrs. Carney?
Aye.
Mrs. Hammond? Aye. Mrs. Wise?
Aye.
Very good. The minutes are tabled. We are now at the portion of the meeting where we take comments from the audience. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes, with a total time allowed generally of 15 minutes. So if there's anybody who would care to address the city at this time, if you would, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Make sure you speak into the microphone so that everyone can hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Kupfer, and you need the address?
Oh, yes.
4341 Berlin Road. So I understand shortly we're going to be voting on lowering the age for buying tobacco products from 21 to 18. As a healthcare professional, I agree with everything about the real dangers of nicotine products. However, we see major problems with this proposed law for many reasons. And I'll also finish with a suggestion that has the potential for real impact if we do care enough about this issue. So when researching the law, I have not been able to find any statistics that show that these laws will actually work. It seems like a lot of statistics that they bring are on a macro level, basically how they will work nationally. And before we decide on this law, I just wanted to ask the council who's bringing up this bill, are there any statistics that have shown that this law has done anything to curb nicotine use in the cities where it is used right now? Outside of the statistics, using logic, do we see that this will stop any of our use from actually getting nicotine? I mean, if they can't buy it from Speedway, they can literally just cross the road and cross Cedar and buy it from the new nicotine shop that's up there right now. Even if South Euclid creates a law just like ours, they can go 5 minutes away. We already have these laws in place for alcohol. Statistics show that in the last 30 days, 33% of people in high school have still drank alcohol, which you need to be 21 to use, and only 10% smoke tobacco, which you need to be 18. If we look at the statistics, smoking has been falling steadily since 1965, 42% to 16.8%. It's been a real decline almost every year, and I believe we're almost near 10% right now. The reason for this decline is directly tied to how educated our population is and putting an end to the misinformation that's been put forth. My second big issue with this law is that it will restrict some of our tax-paying population while it will restrict some of our tax-paying population while not true for everybody. These are people who we allow to buy property in our town, who voted on elections, pay taxes. They're also citizens who are old enough to be drafted into the Army, be held accountable as adults in a court of law. For anybody on the board to say that they should be privy to the rights that other adult-paying citizens should not be is troublesome. When we combine the absent advantage that this law will do little to curb nicotine use, to the major drawback of making a statement that some adults in this community should have rights while others do not, I think that this is a very troublesome endeavor. What I do suggest, if we do feel this is a real issue and we do want to make change, and based on the statistics that we have seen for rapidly fall of tobacco use since 1965, is education. With education, we make smarter choices, and as I was just saying, the statistics back this up. Many people are misinformed that vaping is not dangerous, and if we want to fix that, we need to educate for real results. If it worked with cigarettes, it can easily work here. We have a great school system. We can easily add it to the curriculum. At our events, we can have a table that passes out pamphlets to share this information. Some of the answers I've gotten from talking to council members and our mayor have included, others are doing it, so we're just following suit. I think that's not a great answer. That's the same reason why, some people say they smoke. While other comments seem to weigh on the major problem that nicotine is, which I agree with. I just don't agree that this is a solution. If we're going to fight it head on, I suggest that we, instead of creating a law that will do little or nothing to stop the problem while isolating members of our community, we choose a solution that can be inexpensive and have a real impact. Let's choose the evidence-based solution to this problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
My name is still Sherry. I still live on Washington Boulevard, and I'm still an unhappy resident.
Welcome, Mrs.
But first, I have kudos, and I hope somebody will tell Patrick to go on YouTube. Patrick did something that only one other person, Chief Rogers, has done, that I have been saying for weeks and weeks and months and months. Patrick picked up the phone. He called the disgusting property owner at the apartment in the corner of Warrensville and Washington and spoke with him about some, because there are many problems at that apartment. And Patrick called me, and it sounded like that he was received in a pleasant manner, and he got the impression that this owner was going to correct what Patrick had put before him. Well, surprise, surprise, he didn't. So a week later, I emailed Patrick. He said he was going to issue a violation, and lo and behold, after weeks and weeks, a piece of luggage and a trash bag were gone from the back of the garage, which faces my kitchen. So I want to thank Patrick. Chief Rogers did the same thing when that same facility got a new trash pickup place. He called them so that they wouldn't come at 6 o'clock in the morning like the previous one did. And if memory serves me correctly, Chief Rogers, you can say if I'm incorrect, the person he spoke with actually thanked him for calling. So the telephone is the way to go. These passing out letters and giving 60, 90 days, that is not working. I've been coming to these meetings for 9 months and only 2 things have ever been fixed. I was just telling Chief Rogers, since the last meeting, every single day, I'm not saying one day, 14 consecutive days I've had cars from my house to Traymore parked all day for hours and hours and hours and more hours, and overnight. Yesterday I had a $100,000 Porsche in front of my house. And a friend of mine said, why would anybody park a car that expensive on the street? and it was there for over 24 hours. Now, council has got to make some rules. The new procedure is to park overnight, you do it electronically, which I think is wonderful. But not having any criteria is not good. You should not be allowed to park because you can, because the landlord at the apartment has 5 more cars than he can accommodate. The house across the street, they're too damn lazy to move to let each other out. Those are not reasons. This council spent a lot of time on people having chickens, which a lot of people think was totally ridiculous, but neither here nor there. You made restrictions on what had to be done if you were going to have chickens. You need to do the same thing with parking on the streets. Our streets are not parking lots, and our driveways are not used car lots. And the problem is no better today than it was in June of 2018. These students are going to be leaving in May, new ones will be coming back in August, and it's going to be the same nonsense over and over again. And the same thing with the trash. I pulled out of my driveway and I told Chief Rogers there was a car over the sidewalk, which has been for the last 14 days every night, because there's too many cars over there. And I don't know if, Mr. Mayor, you remember, and Mike, you came to my house last fall. I showed you all the problems. And when I said, why can't they park back there? And you told me they're not allowed to park on the grass. Well, guess what? That's where some of these 5 extra cars that do not have a garage are parking. So much for them not being allowed to do that. They're doing it. The house across the street from me, that's a single home that has 2 students that seem to be nice. One that I don't think is a student and he's a pain. But they have trash issues too. 2 cans, overflowed, no tops, and extra bags. That's not how we've done it in University Heights. Mr. Mayor, you told me 1966, so I've been quoting you since then. We do not put trash where everybody can see it. We must have lids on them, and you should not be putting it out till the morning of. Animals will get into it. And something needs to be done. Warrensville by Hillbrook is an absolute dump. Absolute dump. 2 houses have 8 cars. I mentioned this last time, they had 20 bags of trash if they had 1. And like I said, you had time to deal with chickens, which was nonsense, and 95% of the people didn't care. Everybody is faced with trash and cars blocking. If I get company, I have no place for my company to park, because every day from my house to Traymore, there's at least 3 cars, sometimes 4, sometimes 5. So I don't know whose job it is, if it's in your meetings after this. James told me to come to the next building meeting, which I plan to do, because nothing has changed except what Chief Rogers did about signs and what Patrick did about that horrible owner next door. So please do something about trash and cars. Our city looks like a dump, and if you don't think it does, then you're burying your head in the city.
Thank you, Mrs. Stewart. Is there anything else you'd like to address the city?
Yeah, I'm Kate Bueller. I've been here before. I live on Fenwick Road. At the last meeting, I said I was terribly confused about the state of the city addressed by Mayor Brennan, but I've resolved some of the issues without the FOIA request, even though I did have a FOIA request. One of the things I asked for in the FOIA request of September was the names and position descriptions, as well as the salary and other remuneration of the new hires. Well, I do have I believe, 15 new positions and possibly 3 more positions to be added in 2019 to make a total of 18 new positions under Mayor Brennan. I wonder if there'll be more. But when Mayor Brennan hires these people, a new housing director, 2 new inspectors, a new secretary for them, 2 new police officers, 4 new firemen, a new secretary for them, 3 new firemen to be hired in 2019, and finance, in the finance department, a new person for the half salary that we had before. And I do agree, perhaps we do need a full-time finance director. However, we didn't get along without it. A new economic development director, a new communications position, and a new assistant and special project person. And these were not positions that we had before. Now, how did I find out about this? A lot of digging. The minutes, the Sun newspapers, the Observer, the Heights Observer, the League of Women Voters report. I did a lot of digging for this information. So that brings us to the city spending. That's what I'm going for. The city spending. And when you hire these people, how long are they contracted for? How long are we taxpayers obligated to pay these new people? I made a FOIA request for the spending, the expenses of 2018. I did not get the information from the FOIA request. I got the information from the finance website. From the finance website, I have checks from January 1st, 18 through November 30th, not December. No December information is in this. And the total spent from January 1st, 2018 to November 30th, 2018, not including December, was $12,431,573. I'd like a copy of the information from December also. Those were the dollars that were spent by this administration for 11 months. I know that Mayor Rothschild did not spend that. I'm not sure what Mayor Infeld spent for the administration.
I'm not sure either.
Well, why aren't you? Why don't you know? Why don't you know how to run the city?
No, because I'm talking about poor bookkeeping that I inherited, so I don't know what you did spend.
Well, council knew about running the city. There are council people that have been on the council for a long time. Mr. Sims? Yes,
At the
okay.
risk of getting into a back and forth.
Yes, okay.
That
Now-
information was not disclosed by the previous administration of this council for the better part of at least 2017.
Okay, Mayor Brennan, why didn't you seek out that information? You know, we taxpayers.
Because it wasn't kept, so
Right.
we couldn't create what wasn't kept. I mean, we did the best we could to make the city auditable, as opposed to having it found inauditable, which it very well could have been, based upon the lack of bookkeeping that was kept in the year 2017.
Well, these expenses seem to be unsustainable, truly. Now, regarding the State of the City address, which left me very confused, you said, quote, "We're going to have to expect to pay a lot more for trash pickup and waste disposal," end quote. Are you going to raise our taxes for that? And then you said, quote, "We must begin to work on replacing the municipal facilities," end quote. Quote, "We know it'll bring a lot of ask, but it is one that will allow us to better serve you." Are you going to raise our taxes?
Me personally? Oh, that's fine. You're right, Mr. Wiseman. Please, I'm taking your time.
So there were the promises by council who ran for office of lowering taxes and tax credits and all, and Mr. Rock gave a vanilla-colored response that we don't have the money, you know, you can tell. That was an empty promise. That was an empty promise to get elected. You hired a lot of people. I don't know how long we're going to have to pay these people. I still want the December finances, the $12.5 million to run the city, I'm sure is a lot more than prior administrations. And this city, I've lived in the city for 55 years. It's been a wonderful city. It's been a wonderful city. And it's been a stable city. Okay, I rest my case. I want the expense report for December so that I can have a total report of the monies that were spent to operate this city. And I'll compare it to prior administrations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Is there anybody else who would care to address the city?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
We're here representing John Carroll University Student Government, and we're on the Committee for Community and Service, yes, and Service Relations. So I would just like, my name's Margaret Skubik. I'm Brenna Shamblin.
And I'm Chris, I've heard before you guys before.
Oh, yes.
So we're just here. Thank you so much for having us, and I'm going to give my email address. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions for our committee or just for our student government. So my email is mskubik22@jcu.edu. Thank you so much.
Good to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would care to address the city at this time? All right, very good. I will then move on to the next item on the agenda, which is reports and communications from the mayor and taking of action. And there are a number of things we've been working on, but the thing that has consumed, I don't want to say an inordinate amount of my time because I believe it was time well spent. But the week of March 4th, all of the finalists for the superintendent's position were here in the city to meet with the public and also meet with elected officials and to take meetings with our school board. And over the course of 5 days, they each had a day, so Monday and then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of the week of March 4th. Each of the finalists, the 4 finalists were in. I had the opportunity to meet with all 4 finalists, and I was grateful that the school board sought community involvement, not only from the community at large, but also from its elected officials. I know that City Manager Tanisha Riley, that is Cleveland Heights City Manager Tanisha Riley, I have not hired a city manager, and the mayor of Cleveland Heights, Carol Rowe, also participated in meetings, as did I. So I was delighted to meet with all 4, and it did lead to an announcement of an offer and an acceptance by Elizabeth Kirby to be the new superintendent of the CHUH school board. I was pleased to draft and then send this morning a letter to the school board, which, if you'll indulge me, I'm going to read now. Regarding selection of Elizabeth Kirby as superintendent, dear. This is addressed to Jody Serini, James Posh, Beverly Wright, Dan Heinzen, Malia Lewis. Dear President Serini, Vice President Posh, Treasurer Wright, Mr. Heinz, and Ms. Lewis, congratulations on your selection of Elizabeth Kirby as the new superintendent of our school district. While the time I spent meeting with her was relatively brief, she impressed me as the qualified, capable, and visionary leader we want to take our district to the next level in progress and achievement. Thank you for allowing me to meet the finalists and be a part of the selection process. I appreciate that you sought the involvement and opinions of City Manager Tanisha Riley, Mayor Carol Rowe, and me. I look forward to further collaboration on upcoming matters of mutual interest. In short, well done. Sincerely yours, Michael Dillon, Bradley Mayor. So I emailed that to all 5 members of the school board as well as sending a written copy of the mail. But I am, I didn't ask, nor did I expect to have involvement in the selection of the next superintendent. And while it was not a hiring decision that I could make, it was certainly, they chose the one I would have chosen if it were mine. And there were 4 excellent people that were here. Any one of the 4 could have led this district ably, but to pick one, I believe they picked the right one. I'm expecting big things, and I think big things will be delivered by Elizabeth Curtis. So I'm very excited by this hire, and I hope the community shares in that excitement and takes the opportunity to see what's going on here at the Cleveland Heights University High School District. So I will leave it at that. That will conclude my report. Yes, Mrs. Party, please.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, this is wonderful what the mayor has reported. I want to make sure there's no suggestion in any of the language that he did in fact have any part in this selection. Many members of the community, in fact the entire community, school district, employees, the administrators, parents, community, were all invited, and we're all invited to provide feedback on sheets as well as in other methods. So the kind of feedback that I believe the mayor and the elected officials gave was similar to the kind of feedback you could have given if you had attended. So it was a wonderful invitation that the board put forward an excellent process. It was very inclusive. It was extensive. It exhausted everyone.
Yes.
Because of all those meetings.
And we have Reaching Musical Heights in the
middle.
too,
That was
so.
why Tuesday night was, free. But just to be very clear though, that these are separate entities.
Absolutely.
And there's a wonderful relationship between our city and the school board and the school district. But that was the community involvement, similar to any other community members involved.
Right, to be clear,
Just
and just to, right, and I want to thank Mrs. Party for that clarification, but yes, that is, when I said that I was, that I was thankful for being part of the selection process, I meant as, I did not mean as a school board member, or even though I felt like an honorary school board member after about the 5th day of this. No, I mean, their decision to hire Elizabeth Kirby was the board's decision and the board's decision alone. So while they sought feedback from the community at all levels, and I know that there was a lot of feedback in favor of the various candidates and especially of Ms. Kirby, my involvement would be closer to the community level of the feedback, and my input was not. I don't want to overstate what the value of my input was, or that the decision to hire was somehow mine. It was not. So, but thank you. So that concludes my. All right. So moving on to the agenda, the first item on the agenda is ordinance 2019-09, enacting codified ordinance chapter 874 entitled Cigarette Tobacco Vendors, Sales to Persons Under 21, enacting codified ordinance section 614 entitled Tobacco Products, and amending codified ordinance chapter 1650 entitled Smoking in Public Places. This is on second reading. And before we proceed, I would like to acknowledge the presence of 2 guests here this evening. Rick Levikas of the Cuyahoga Board of Health, as well as Wendy Hyde of Tobacco 21. And we've asked them to be here this evening because they were going to present as well on some background with regard to this proposal. And if there's no objection, I'd like to first recognize Mr. Levikas. If you'd care to come up and address the council and the city, we're glad to have you.
So, thank you. Good evening, my name is Rick Novikas, and I'm the Director of Environmental Public Health at the Cuyahoga County Board of Health. 34 fun-filled years in public health, and still going strong. It's programs like this and opportunities like this that keep me going, looking at programs that really can make a difference in the future. That's really why we stay in the program. So I'm excited to be able to be here this evening, and on behalf of Terry Allen, our Health Commissioner, and our board members, to thank the community for moving forward with the proposed legislation to raise the age of tobacco and related tobacco product sales from 18 to 21. Tobacco's use is the leading cause of preventable disease, disability, and death in the United States. Nearly 40 million U.S. adults go smoke, and nearly 5 million middle and high school students use at least one tobacco product, including e-cigarettes. The primary source of tobacco products for underage smokers are their 18 to 20-year-old peers, their brothers, their sisters, their friends from school, because realistically the majority, I believe it's around 80% of high school students do turn 18 before they graduate. Since more than 95% of addicted smokers start before age 21, implementing programs like this helps minimize the number of kids that will actually start smoking and will likewise reduce the availability and easy access of tobacco products to youth. To date, 7 states and over 425 cities and counties across the country have implemented similar Tobacco 21 programs. Here in Ohio, there have been at least 20 communities that I'm aware of that have passed this type of program, including Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and Franklin County, just to name a few. I know that here in our own health jurisdiction, University Heights would be the 5th community that will be moving forward with this type of legislation. Euclid was the first. We had likewise Cleveland Heights, the city of Brooklyn, and tonight at the same time, as right now going on, Lakewood is also going to be passing out Tobacco 21 ordinance. So we're very happy and proud of where we're at, and the fact that there are a number of communities that have also come forward in addition, probably twice or 3 times that many that are looking at moving forward later on this year, in the year 2019 with similar programs. We feel that the program we have has created a model and a strategic approach that can be repeated across the state and beyond. I know that we provided draft template for legislation and the process, in a sense like a process map of how to roll out the program to our fellow public health folks around the state of Ohio to basically create a template for them to minimize them having to reinvent the wheel and to be able to provide some background information on what's been successful in the past. The key to the program is really the public outreach and the education. Reaching out to the public to let them know the impacts of the program, the long-term positive public health impacts, and really getting to the business owners and getting their support and understanding for why a program like this is being promoted and passed in their community. I know that it's been very, very effective in the city of Euclid. I know that we hosted community meeting to have folks come and listen to the presentation, ask questions, feel comfortable with moving forward with the program. The key was spending one-on-one time with every individual business. Just going to their business, meeting with their employees, management, ownership, and to make sure they were comfortable with the program. And it was really amazing, the positive support, because the first thing you think of, well, we're potentially taking money out of their pocket because they're losing sales to 18 to 20-year-olds. If I remember correctly, I'm no great statistician, but I do remember that I believe it's less than 2% of total sales of tobacco is to 18 and 20-year-olds, but it drives 95% of the addiction. So the impact that you make to the youth today will have long-lasting effects, across the generations in the future. The key that made the program so effective, I guess, was spending time with the individual operators and seeing that when we arrived on site to talk to these folks, nearly all of them had already implemented the program, were already had already stopped selling to 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, and had already created their own signage or modified their existing signage as we showed up to give them signs. They were already walking the walk, talking the talk, they understood the program, they had already implemented before we even got there. 100% participation in the permit fee that the folks have to pay. Every single person paid that in no time flat. I guess the key was that it took the time, the outreach, as you heard mentioned earlier, the education, and I think that was very effective, and I think it's a very repeatable approach that's working throughout the state and working throughout the country. Routine operational inspections then follow, where you're looking for the basic requirements of the ordinance, but the key is that you're chatting with the people who work there so they understand that as a cashier, as a salesperson, they really can have that opportunity in front of them. They make that decision when that person walks up to potentially purchase tobacco products. How important it is that they're checking and validating their age. And in many cases, some of the cash registers are already set up to where you have to swipe a driver's license to document an ID that you're 21 or older. So again, we see different approaches in the different communities, but I know that along with the operational inspections, the key is, as much as happy as I am where we're at, the reality is that you still need to have those compliance checks down the road, and I think that's important. We saw that we had a grant probably about a decade or more ago related to tobacco sales, and I know that we did compliance checks on hundreds of locations across the county, and I know that I believe initially it was around 30 or 31% of the places were selling at the time to under 18. And by the time that compliance check was done, and in the ensuing years to follow, that rate dropped to, I believe, 8% of sales. So we know that compliance checks work. We know that getting information out to folks works. And again, I can't exactly quote. I know that Ms. Hyde is here to talk from the perspective of the Tobacco 21 program. But the one thing I can tell you is that the industry has been targeting youth for many, many years. We know that. And not even the cigarettes. Okay, because some people think they're gross and disgusting. But now this cool new toy showed up, the Juul and other e-cigarettes, right? They're in hundreds and hundreds of flavors. People don't even realize that although a study did validate that they are not as terrible for us as smoking a cigarette, they still are loaded with many chemicals and nicotine, and they get kids hooked. But now they're getting hooked with all these cute little flavors. So now you drive down the street and you see these high school kids puffing. They don't even realize that they're taking in the same amount of nicotine in one little Juul pod that an entire pack of cigarettes has in it. So you're getting the kids hooked on nicotine. Now, if the Juul's not available, they'll bum a smoke from somebody else, and now they're hooked. And now we're fighting to work with cessation to get them to stop smoking. So again, it's just the key that we can start young. I think it's a great program. We're very proud to participate in the program, and we think it has many long-term public health impacts. I just want to thank the sponsor, Councilperson Weiss, the mayor of the council, for considering this, and I can try to answer some questions as much as I can. Again, I'm no detail expert on the overarching smoking tobacco industry. I believe that Wendy can probably answer some of those questions better than I can, because she's been more open to it. But I can just tell you from the local perspective what works and what we're seeing and how it's rolling out. So thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Novickas. Is there anyone up here on the panel that would have any questions for Mr. Novickas? We don't usually do this, but if you have a question, I will yield.
Are there any statistics that show basically successive individual cities that have passed this line, or you don't have those statistics logically, like you can just literally cross the street and get the same product? Is that true? I guess the second question is there a way to implement this, implement the education and everything else that you're proposing? I agree with 100% without infringing on some other rights.
So I understand the point. So I guess the second part would be, we know education works, but I believe there's probably pretty strong education out there right now that tells people they shouldn't be smoking. I think if I don't know if anyone here in the room hasn't been touched by cancer, something directly related to smoking, and someone that they've lost or is ill as a result of the tobacco industry. So again, I can't quote you statistics, but what I can tell you is that education is very important, but it's only one facet of the program. Can you repeat the first part of the first question?
The first question is
The statistics.
Is there any statistics that show that this will work in the city?
Right.
City, but that doesn't have support outside in our city. People can literally cross the road on one of our biggest roads and get the product.
So yeah, so good point. So all I can say is nothing makes me happier than to basically give up my own time to go to city council meetings like this at night to promote this from one city to the next city to the next city. We had similar questions in the city of Euclid because they share a border with Cleveland. I know that Cleveland had passed this several years ago. didn't have the impetus to really move forward on their enforcement program. They are now moving forward on that. So as this slowly moves through the entire county, it would not surprise me if a half to 2/3 of the county population was involved in a Tobacco 21 program in the next year or so. It's very hard to defend the benefits of smoking by 18 to 20 year olds.
Okay.
So,
We
but
don't
you have valid
usually allow
questions.
questions, so I don't want to have a back and forth here, so out of respect for the fact that you came here today, and I know that you had some sincere concerns, I wanted to allow you the opportunity, but
I do, but if you're preventing their bringing up information, it's good to cross-check the information that these are about.
The next speaker may have some answers.
and the next speaker, so, Mr. Novicus, do you have anything further you wanted to say in
No,
response to?
that's all. Just thank you for your time and consideration.
If there are no further questions, then what I would like to do is call Wendy Hyde. Thank you, Mr.
Thanks.
for presenting. Ms. Hyde, if you would state your name for the record, as well as who you're here on behalf of.
Sure. I am Wendy Hyde, and I work for the Preventing Tobacco Addiction Foundation, Tobacco 21. I'm the Ohio and Michigan Regional Director for that organization. We are an organization that works throughout the country at a nationally to raise the minimum sales age from 18 to 21. We have effectively raised it in over 445 cities and or counties, depending on what the legislation allows for that particular community and or state. We've also worked significantly with 7 states at this point in time to raise the minimum sales age from 18 to 21. This is probably the most important life-saving ordinance you will have come across this council's desk. And I know that there's been several statistics that have been spoken of this evening. And what I would challenge you all to think of is that today's tobacco product, today's nicotine addictive product looks much different than it did even 10, 15 years ago. Many kids today, my own included, if I asked them, is smoking bad for you? Absolutely. Would you smoke? Absolutely not, right? Because it stinks, it smells bad. There's regulations. In fact, many of the young people in this room probably can't remember a time where you walk into a restaurant and they'd say, would you like smoking or non-smoking? That's because we've made some really wonderful strides in public health to reduce, as you said, our smoking rates through education, through public policy. It's really a combined approach that works best. And what we now have is a product that came onto the market in 2006. It came onto the market and really once we have tied through public policy measures, the traditional industry, tobacco industry with combustible products, right, through the master settlement, through other public health policy, we really found the hands of the tobacco industry. And because of that, once the e-cigarette came onto the market, these e-cigarettes are not regulated in the same way as combustible products. They can be flavored, and we know that those flavorings is really what hooks the kids. And then most recently, in the past 2 years, we had the product that came into market that was mentioned earlier called Juul. Juul has completely overtaken the e-cigarette market. In fact, they have over 74% of the e-cigarettes that are utilized in today's marketplace are through Juul. Juul is now owned by Altria, which is one of the 5 top tobacco industry leaders in our country. So there is lots at play here. And this is not going to be a measure that is going to solve all of our adolescent or teenage use issues, correct? It is one item that makes an impact. What it does is it restricts youth access. Every morning, my 14-year-old gets on a school bus with 18-year-olds, right? They have access to him, he has access to them through the school bus, through the school environment. He doesn't have access to a 21-year-old on a regular basis. That's not part of his social environment. So just by reducing that access, it greatly reduces the child initiating a tobacco use product. Now, to answer your question regarding the effectiveness of this program. So this began in 2005. 2 physicians in Needingham, Massachusetts, who are also health commissioners, decided that they wanted to make a change. And they said, hey, you know what? We have a pretty high tobacco use rate among our population here in Needingham. What if we, and Needingham is a population of about 12,000. what if we raise the minimum sales age from 18 to 21? And so they began the program, and what they found is that within 4 years, they had a reduction of 40% youth initiation within their community. And this is a community that, just like here in University Heights, a child could get on his or her bike and bike to the community next door at that point in time and potentially purchase a tobacco product from another store. They found that that did not happen. And that the reduction was so significant that it started to lead the way. In 2015, the Institute of Medicine released a very large publication that also, again, substantiated the claims, and they found that if the greatest benefit of setting minimum age to 21 was that an estimated reduction in smoking initiation among 15 to 17-year-olds would be about at 25%, right? This policy works. Okay? It doesn't, I'm going to say, it's not going to solve all of our issues, right, with youth initiation, but it certainly will restrict and have a significant result. As far as the argument of age of majority, right? So many people think that 18 is adulthood. Well, actually, ask an 18-year-old, can an 18-year-old rent a car? No, they can't. Can an 18-year-old rent a hotel room? No. Can they gamble in Ohio? Absolutely not. Age of majority is not set at 18. It's not a universal magic number. And if we want to, consider the military, as was brought up by our gentleman earlier, really, it's shameful the way the industry has taken advantage of our military personnel since World War I, right? Because the industry in World War I decided that they wanted to globalize the American cigarette product. How did they do that? They put it in our military personnel rations, their food kits. And by the end of World War II, the U.S. government was the largest purchaser of the U.S. tobacco products. Why? Because they were giving it to our military personnel. Right, it is time to say, hey, you know what, and the military says it themselves, they're having a difficult time finding men and women with military readiness to serve. It is not a positive, joining the military is a positive thing. Being able to vote, those are positive things. Any lifelong addiction to a product that kills its users is not a positive aspect, right? So age of majority should not be necessarily set at 18 for any other benefit. Also, if you're talking about adolescent brain, the adolescent brain is not really fully developed until about 25, 26. That's why when my 15, 16-year-old looks at me and says something or does something ridiculous, I'm like, what the heck were you thinking, right? It's because they're not thinking. That part of the prefrontal cortex of the brain is not really fully developed until about 25, 26. They're going to take and make risky decisions. Should we not try to protect them? At the very least, until they can get to the point where they can make better lifelong decisions. I just am hopeful tonight that you would fully support this initiative to raise the minimum sales age in University Heights from 18 to 21. Thank you for some time, for giving me time to speak today. Any other questions that I might be able to answer after that?
Thank you, Ms. Knight. First, does anybody up here on the panel, here on the council, have any decisions for this, questions for this topic? Go ahead. Allow one question.
So I'm a healthcare professional, spend a lot of time reading studies and stuff like that. Usually when we're trying to actually gain it, you guys have 450 cities already involved in the program. We don't just look at one small segment of one city of that 450 to make it to say that this is the set. That's like kind of making words.
This is actually supposed to be a question.
I'm going to get that. Thank you. So basically, I was going to ask before I was going to be interrupted if there's data on the 450 other cities that are not surrounded by other cities involved in this.
Yes, to answer your question, there is
I
data.
admitted it on the website.
So I would be happy to provide you with more data and information. And really, as a healthcare professional, should we not be really looking at protecting the health of our most vulnerable population? And our most vulnerable population of any community are our children. So, thank you so very much.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Ms. Knight. I appreciate you
also like to look forward to Mrs. Weiss, who's the sponsor for this legislation. I'm sure you have some comments about it.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Mr. Novicus and Ms. Hyde for speaking tonight. I also wanted to thank council. We've had a number of meetings looking through this ordinance and perfecting it, and also the law director for drafting it. I just, we went through kind of the background of this last time. I just wanted to tell the audience, this was, the driving factor behind this was our youth and was the increase in vaping, which is really unprecedented. The country has made so many strides in reducing smoking and nicotine addiction in the last few decades. Yeah, it's actually increasing them, which is unheard of. And I hope that council can move past this tonight and all for the good of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Weiss. Does anybody else in this room?
Yes, I have a comment. I fully support this ordinance because I really believe this is the right thing to do. And, I've heard compelling arguments on both sides of this, but to know that we're doing something that's the right thing to do, something that gives me pride in why I'm in this position. Yes, people could walk across the street to South or Beechwood, or whoever hasn't put this ordinance forward yet. And I think as a forward-thinking, progressive city that we're in, we're leading the way for other cities to follow. And I really do believe Cuyahoga County will follow. The majority of the cities doing the same thing. There's a reason why John Carroll banned cigarettes from its campus and any tobacco products. Yeah, I could walk across the street on the Boulevard and hang out on the corner and smoke a cigarette, but it was the right thing to do. And there's a reason why CVS stopped selling cigarettes in stores in University Heights. We have a couple CVS stores in University Heights. Sure, I could walk across the street to the gas station, but it was the right thing to do. And so these are things that you're going to start to see. That was a business decision. They're losing a lot of money by doing that, but again, it was the right thing to do. So that's basically why I truly support this. I agree that education is a very important factor. I grew up with Just Say No. I don't know if it's still around or not, but at least it worked for me. But education is very vital to this, but access is another thing, and it is out there. So to limit the access the best possible is wise.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Is anyone else who would like to make a comment on this legislation? Mr. Wiseman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So there is one statistic that I was interested in. That statistic is how many 18 to 21-year-olds in University Heights will be able to go to a store in this city and buy cigarettes or vaping products. And the answer to that will be zero once we pass it. In 1984, the federal government strong-armed the states into changing the drinking age to 21 because they decided that the individual rights of a 19-year-old or 18-year-old are less important than our ability to keep them from hurting themselves and others. And the idea that 95% of the people who get addicted start when they're less than 21 is probably the most important thing I've heard in this entire discussion because I grew up in an 18 state to drink. And you didn't have to be 18 to drink when you were my age in my state. You just had to know someone who was 18. And smoking, like drinking, is an affiliation-based activity. And when you're a kid and you want to be cool and the 18-year-olds can smoke, you want to smoke too. And I think this is all we can do. I think there are no compelling arguments on the other side. We are regulating an industry that is unregulated, that markets bubblegum flavor and candy pop flavor and other kind of flavors that are clearly only geared to kids under 18 years of age. I think it's despicable. And if the businesses in the city lose business because they can't sell jewel products or can't sell vaping products or tobacco, then I think they should sell something else. But I think it's more important for the children of our city to be safe and for the parents of our city to know that their kid is going to have to go to another city and buy something like this. I don't think it may be easy to walk across the street to stop people, but I don't think it's happening for a lot of these kids. I think they're just lucky to do it. And because everybody hasn't done it doesn't seem to me to be a reason to adopt inaction as a go-forward strategy. Somebody has to do it. Eventually, everybody's gonna adopt something like this. You already can't smoke anywhere in Ohio, and that has changed drastically the number of people in Ohio who are addicted to cigarettes, and the number of people who have to use Medicaid to pay for their end-of-life care because cigarettes have actually killed them. Can't remember when Ohio banned cigarette smoking, but it's been at least 20 years since that happened. And these things don't happen overnight. But whatever we can do to stop this, I think is something that we're obligated to do as council members. And I appreciate the people coming here from the health department. I really like what they have to say. But to me, there doesn't seem to be any argument for doing anything other than thank Councilwoman Weiss and the administration for putting it together. I know that a lot of work went into this. We spent a lot of time discussing it, and I'm very proud to be behind this piece of legislation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Weisman. Does anybody else on the council have anything they care to say about this legislation?
Well, Mayor, at the last meeting, I took the opportunity to commend Councilwoman Weiss on her.
Could you speak up into the microphone, please?
I took the opportunity at the last meeting to commend Councilwoman Weiss on bringing this forward, and I just would like to reiterate that again tonight. I think that this is the right thing to do.
Thank you, Mr. Sims. Does anybody else want to comment on this legislation? I have a few things I'd like to say. I refrained from engaging on this subject on social media because I wanted some time to quietly think about this proposal. And I happen to love personal freedom. And I was speaking earlier today about vestiges of my latent libertarianism. But if we equate the decision to consume tobacco and nicotine products to personal freedom, then we have bought into decades of cigarette advertising. The purveyors of nicotine promise freedom, and in the case of Juuls, even health benefits. But they deliver dependency, addiction, declining health, and in the absence of a sudden intervening cause, eventual death. These things are antithetical to freedom. Cigarettes and vaping products are the only devices legal in the United States which, when used as intended by the manufacturer, harm the user and indeed eventually kill the user. One cannot say that about the manufacturers of alcohol or even guns. One may ingest alcohol in moderation without harm, but the same cannot be said for tobacco or nicotine. Smoking and nicotine ingestion, even in moderation, causes harm. There is no credible evidence, no scientific evidence that vaping products are any safer than actual cigarettes. One might speculate that the absence of carbon in smoke are a benefit, but one could also speculate the opposite, that in the absence of smoke and with the addition of sweet flavors, that this encourages greater ingestion of nicotine, which we all know is addictive and harmful to the body with or without the smoke. There is no right to purchase or consume tobacco. It is not a fundamental right, like the right to vote, or the right to marry, or the right to due process. It is simply a consumer decision. Nothing is elevated as an actual right, and I am a strong supporter of consumer protection. Legislating the health, safety, and welfare of our community is a valid role for our city government, and there is a valid public health concern that makes this legislation proper. We don't have to prevent every sale or every acquisition of these products in order for this law to be a positive statement and policy, stop some nicotine sales to the youth in our city, and serve as progress in advancing public health. If this council passes this legislation, I will be happy to sign it. Thank you.
mother of a 21-year-old, a 20-year-old, and my 20-year-old best friend will be 20 in 6 weeks or so. He calls me mom. And I can tell you, I have my hands full keeping up with these 2, these 3, these kids. And the fact that they could possess or engage in recreational smoking with these flavored products is really horrible, horrible development. It's awful to think that now that we have to fight strawberry flavors in smoking products. It's just awful. So, without further ado, if I might, second. We would like us to move forward to enact the ordinance as described.
Very good. We have a motion by Mrs. Cameron to adopt the ordinance. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Weiss. Is there any discussion of this motion? I think most of them. Anyone has an opportunity to speak, Mr. Harding? Is there anyone?
Well, I spoke at the last meeting
Yes.
about this when it was first introduced. Obviously, I'm fully in support, and I'm grateful that Mrs. Weiss brought this to us. It's going to make a huge difference. Actually, I do believe it will make a difference, because as was discussed earlier, we need to take this on one community at a time until all the surrounding communities have made this difference for our children. And I agree, these are our most vulnerable population. This is our most vulnerable population, and it is up to us to protect them. So I'm fully in agreement with you.
Thank you, Mrs. Harding. Before we vote, I would like Mr. McConville to go over some changes that we made to the proposed ordinance in committee since the last meeting, just for the sake of getting it on the record. These changes are in the ordinance we're voting on, but speaking about it now, Mr. McConville.
Thank you, Mayor. As the mayor mentioned, the ordinance was referred back to committee after the first reading, and there were a couple of modifications that were made to the penalty provisions of the ordinance. First, in the civil portion of the ordinance, fines were moved up so that the same fine schedule is implemented upon the first offense. There is no warning issue on the first offense in the event the offender makes a civil violation of the civil ordinance. And then with respect to the criminal penalties, any sort of jail time in connection with a violation has been remedied. The violations are being treated in the case of violation of the sale to persons under 21. There's a fine schedule that goes from the minor misdemeanor level of $150 on the first offense to a fourth degree penalty of $250 on the second, to a third degree misdemeanor penalty of $500 on the third offense, and thereafter, without any associated opportunity for sentencing, jail time. And then in connection with the furnishing or use of false proof of identification, each violation would be considered a minor misdemeanor with a fine of $150, and again, no opportunity to implement jail time.
I applaud the changes. I know that Mr. Sims was a strong supporter of seeing these changes made, and I know I'm not alone when I say that when it comes to the members of our John Carroll community, that we want you to come to University Heights and leave with a degree, not with a record. So we don't want you to break this law. We don't want to see you go to jail for it. So Anything further? Okay, we have a motion on the floor then, and Mrs. Thomas, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Mr. Weisman?
Aye.
Mr. Sims?
Aye.
Mrs. Bodine?
Aye.
Mrs. Cameron? Aye. Mrs. Lodge?
Aye.
All right, the motion carries and the ordinance is adopted. Take effect, go into law 30 days after, I think 30 days after. Okay, the next item on the agenda. Oh, before I proceed, I want to thank once more Mr. Novicus and Ms. Hyde for being here, as well as members of our community who I appreciate their opinions, and I'm glad that you came today. Thank you. Okay, moving on the agenda. Next is ordinance 2019-11, authorizing appropriations for current and other expenditures of the city of University Heights for a period commencing January 1, 2019 and ending December 31st, 2019. This is on second reading. And Mr. Goff.
This is the permanent appropriations ordinance, as we discussed at the last council meeting, and has been through both the finance committee as well as the finance advisory committee. If there are any questions, I'll entertain those. Otherwise, there's no report for you guys.
All right, thank you, Mr. Goff. Is there any discussion? I know that we discussed this at last meeting, so not much this morning. There are no changes. So, Mr. Robb.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Goff, for working very hard to put this budget before us. I know there was many changes over many committee meetings, over council of the whole meeting, there were discussions one-on-one, and I think this is a good budget. I think this is a budget that will carry the city, give us the bare necessities, plus put in a greater investment into the community, the things that we have been wanting to do for years. I wanted to touch on real quick about some comments that have been made in the past about tax credits and broken promises, and I don't think that's off the table. I mean, that could always happen in the future. It's not happening today, but I don't think it's off the table. But I can tell you some things that, we had campaigned on. I'm not here to give a stump speech, but there were over a dozen things that, I did campaign on that, we did do. And as council, and I'm just one person, and I thank you for the unequal weight that I've been given, because I'm called out in almost every meeting, but I'm just one of 7 here, so, but I appreciate that. But there has been a greater investment into our community over the last year, and there's a lot of comments that we're spending all this money, but this money wasn't being spent. And when I found out years ago, when we were in this recession, and we almost lost our house, and our house values plummeted, and the city was having these record surpluses, I was horrified that we weren't investing into our community with that surplus money to elevate my home value. I was really upset about it, and it's actually why I ran for council in the first place. But in the last year, there were a lot of things that we did with our money, and we still ended in a surplus this year, according to the budget that were presented before us. And the big thing was improving our safety. And I'm not going to apologize that we hired more police officers and firefighters. This is our safety. That is our top priority. And today, we now have a fire prevention bureau. We had one years ago, but the prior administration got rid of the fire prevention bureau. And you should hear the things that they're doing now. We had a safety meeting. I'll report on it later in my comment about safety. But the things that we're working on now to improve the safety of our community are profound, really. So I'm very proud of that. We have an Office of Community Policing now. Again, we're making a greater investment into our community through safety. We have CPR classes now. We're elevating our property values. We're expanding the Heritage Home Program. We're repaving more roads. We're rebranding our city. We're trying our best to bring people into the community, make this an exciting place. We have a vision for the city. We have an economic development director now who's going to help bring business into the city. We have major areas for redevelopment that we've outlined in prior meetings, and it is telling that the economic development director is working very hard to do that, to look at these opportunity zones. We've improved our public spaces. You know, we're making an investment in our community. We now have a CIC. We have tax abatement for homes that are going to have additions and renovations. So, you know, there is an opportunity to get some of your tax dollars back. We're trying to improve our gateways. We're improving our inspection process. You know, we did hire more inspectors, but again, the houses in our community that were falling behind, I heard that time and time again. When are you going to address my neighbor's house? They haven't replaced the roof and the shutters are falling off. And now we have inspectors that are going to cite them and go hard on these absent landlords. We've improved this permitting process and online payments, and we're going to implement our master plan. So I'm very proud of the things that we've been doing in the community over the last year with the money that we had available to us. And I'm very proud that we're going to continue to do that through 2019 because this is where I want to live and this is where I want to stay. So let's invest into this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rudd. Does anybody else have anything that they'd like to say? Mrs. Purdy.
Thank you, Mayor. We've talked at length about what a great process this was and the hard work of the finance director, our appreciation for the Finance Advisory Committee. But I just want to point out again that this budget that was worked on at length is a true reflection of the focus for the administration and the council shared for the betterment of the city. It is a document that puts into financial terms the focus we all have for the next year and the kinds of work, and as Mr. Rock so eloquently described, some of the kinds of improvements and services we are intent upon providing. So that is really what this budget is about, and I look forward to us doing that.
Thank you, Mrs. Purdy. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment on the budget? I will very briefly. Very briefly. I would like to once more thank Mr. Goff for his hard work on the budget. Mrs. Purdy is chair of the Finance Committee, and also all members of the Finance Committee as well as the Finance Advisory Committee. This was a lengthy process, a worthwhile process. I too question, the sustainability of some of the things that we do here at University Heights. There are some things that will always go up, such as wages. One of the things I inherited was a collective bargaining agreement with the police unions, guaranteeing a 2.5% raise per year for 3 years. I don't argue with that at all. Our police officers deserve that. The firefighters deserve that when they got it. Our service employees deserve that when they got that as well. But of course, with raises, the amount that we spend in wages is more than ever, as it tends to be with inflation, cost of living adjustments, and collective bargaining agreements that provide for 2.5% raises per year. So that said, we need our firefighters, we need our police department, we need to have people that pick up our trash. So we need people who plow the streets and clear our sidewalks and do all the things that make the city run, and those things do come at a cost. Now, when it comes to sustainability and planning for the future, one of the things that we will be embarking on now that the budget is about to be completed will be the commencement of preparing a 5-year projection, which is something that if our city has ever done, it certainly has not done in recent memory. Cities are not required to do this, though school boards are, and one of the things that I've witnessed by watching our school board in action is that they are able to make some effective long-term planning based upon their 5-year projections, and that's something that we're going to do here in the city as well. So I'm looking forward to that process. It may not, we'll see what we get when we do that. It may unearth some things that we'll have to make some decisions about, but at the same time, that's why you do it, so you aren't caught by surprise later. So, and so you can effectively plan. So without further ado, Yes,
sorry,
Mr.
and I
Rock.
forgot to mention this.
Yes. And I also forgot something else.
Okay, well then I'll hand it back to you.
Yes.
But many of the new positions that we did hire in the police and fire were replacing retired positions. So it's not a net gain necessarily. There were a couple new ones, but that is to get us to the minimum staffing levels that our fire department and police department had to have. And last year, we were not necessarily at our mandatory minimum staffing level. Those positions, those shifts still have to be filled. They were filled through overtime. Overtime is time and a half. These positions will be filled at straight time for that shift. These are the lower end of the totem pole positions. These are low seniority positions. So we had retirees at the top going out. We have people coming in at the lower end of the spectrum. Okay, and throughout the departments there are promotions within. But what I'm trying to say is here is that we were not meeting the minimum staffing level in this budget.
And I would also add that with what Mr. Rock just said, is that when we pay overtime to our police and fire, we aren't paying just time and a half. We also have a requirement to pay additional money into their pensions at a rate of, I think it's 24%. Is that right, Mr. Howard?
It depends upon which employee. For our firefighters in the state pension for police and firefighters, it's 24%. Police officers in that same police and fire pension, it's 19.5%. And for all older city employees in the OPERS pension, it is 14%. Those are the city's contributions to the pension plans.
So just to be clear, when we pay somebody overtime, it's considerably more than time and a half. We have to make those pension payments as well. And it does render hiring additional people as a more cost-effective way to reach our minimum staffing, to cover all of our shifts. And also, it's better practice to have adequate staffing as opposed to having tired, overworked people in these positions. So that's the one thing I would add to what Mr. Rock just said. The other thing I was going to say, to reflect back, was simply that I want to commend Mr. Rock for his eloquent statement a few minutes ago, recapping much of what we accomplished last year. It seems to me it took me an hour and 15 minutes to stay in the city, and it took John about 5 minutes. So thank you, John. That was well done. I should have talked to you more before the state of the city address. So thank you for that. Is there anything further? Very good. Mrs. Thomas, will you call it? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we had a motion. Is there a motion? Second. Okay, we have a motion to adopt the budget by Mrs. Parley, a second by Mr. Simmons. Mrs. Thomas, will you call it?
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Mr. Wiseman?
Aye.
Mr. Sims?
Aye.
Mrs. Cody?
Aye.
Mrs. Cameron? Aye. Mrs. Weiss? Aye.
Very good. Motion carries. Thank you. Next is ordinance 2019-12, enacting codified ordinance chapter 280 entitled University Heights City Beautiful Corporation and repealing the existing codified ordinance chapter 280 entitled City Beautiful Commission. And this is on first reading, and this is something that I've asked the law director to prepare, so I'm going to speak briefly on this. Yes, yes. Mrs. Cameron.
What might be the 2019-11, the authorizing appropriation?
Oh, that's what we just passed.
Is that what we're
Yes. Okay, sorry to not make that clear. Okay, so after that point of order, the University Heights City Beautiful Commission and City Beautiful as a concept has existed in our city since early in the years of Mary Burrell Rothschild. She, in fact, was one of the founders of a nonprofit corporation that was formed in 1980. It existed for a few years. After that corporation ran its course, City Beautiful was reorganized, and one of the ways it was reorganized was in the present codification of Chapter 280. The present codification 280 contains a lot of features that are not really part of what we do anymore with City Beautiful. Some of those things include a form which hasn't been followed in many years, which was that it was a 20-member commission that was appointed by the mayor for 2-year terms that promoted the public interest in many ways with regard to promoting the beautification of the city, which is something our CIC is doing and will be doing a lot more of. But specific projects that were under the domain of the commission under existing law that we're seeking to repeal were things that the commission hasn't done in many years, such as the paint and cleanup week, the plant sale, the employee party at the pool, the civic awards event, which we brought back but was not run by the commission, the Arbor Day celebration, which is handled by our service department, the Christmas dinner for safety forces, which has been handled administratively, and finally the Main Street Awards, also known as the Beautiful Home Awards, which we just did a week ago tonight, and which the CIC, which has been renamed the University Arts City Beautiful Corporation, will be continuing, because the many things that our CIC is doing is to promote the improvement of homes, improve our housing stock, and it makes sense that if we're doing these things on the front end to build our community, that we would maintain the Beautiful Home Awards as an end product, that we continue to celebrate the beautiful homes and beautiful architecture here in University Heights. So just to be clear, the Beautiful Home Awards are not going away. They will continue to be a celebrated part of what we do here in University Heights. So the purpose of this legislation is to signal the change officially and codify that change, that the Beautiful Homes Commission no longer exists as it has been constituted for several years, but is again returned to the form of a corporate entity, which is closely held by the city and is made up of a board of directors that are city officials and city employees, and as well as one citizen member that is chosen by this council. So this is a way to codify and essentially signal. We didn't want to leave the commissioning language in place in our ordinances that's no longer being followed, as that could tend to create confusion, and as long as that chapter existed, a straight-out repeal could also be confusing, because the mission is continuing, it's simply continuing in the form of the CIC. So the essential nuts and bolts of the ordinance that was passed last year creating the CIC is now being codified into this section, and that is basically the purpose of this legislation. Any questions, comments? Anything anybody would like to add?
I would just piggyback on that by pointing out that it's kind of a normal course of action for councils throughout the county and the state to repeal ordinances that have become obsolete, and essentially the City Beautiful Commission chapter of ordinances, as they read, had become obsolete. The commission had been constituted as was called for by law in a very long period of time. The functions that the commission was performing, however, I think are ongoing and will be addressed and fulfilled in many respects by the CIC. And so the enacting language and the language that's set forth in the new Chapter 280 is doing two things. One, it's codifying the ordinance that you previously passed in which you established the board structure for the CIC. And then it is just providing some verbiage that speaks to the CIC's mission. And the CIC, I know I'm using that lingo. The CIC is the city's Community Improvement Corporation. That's a statutory entity that cities are permitted to form. Our city formed its Community Improvement Corporation last fall, I believe. And the purpose of a Community Improvement Corporation is to undertake development opportunities and other tasks and projects to improve the quality of life, improve the housing, and improve economic development in the city.
Thank you, Mr. McConnell. Does anybody have anything further? Again, this is on first reading, so there'll be an opportunity to speak on this again at the next meeting. So, first reading has now been had. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is Resolution 2019-13, accepting a $42,314 grant award from the Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council, NOPEC, as part of their EDC Energized Community Program. Speaking on this on behalf of Mr. Joe Myers will be Mr. Collins.
In addition to the memo that you have from Mr. Patrick Myers, this grant that acknowledging is from NOPEC for us to be able to do programs for enhancing energy efficiency. In addition to the $42,314 per award, there's also carryover from the prior year, approximately another $40,000. At the moment, we have a few items that we've been discussing for as possible ways for the city to spend some of this money directly. One of those is something that's already appropriated earlier as part of the budget earlier tonight, and that's and then beyond that particular project, we have a couple ideas that we need to flush out as to what we want to do with the rest of the funding. And when we get around to that funding, we'll have to come back for additional appropriations to actually be able to spend the grant money. But at this point, just acknowledging and accepting the grant and try to answer any questions as best I can. Patrick is far more knowledgeable about this grant.
And just to be clear, this is simply to accept the funds. A project for the funding has not yet been determined, and Mr. Myers will be back with the council with any such project for a resolution of that grant application. So, and that's what we'll understand. Any questions, comments? Yes.
I know over the years we've been fortunate enough to get NOPEC grants, and we've done such things as outfitting the city hall windows with energy efficient windows, and I believe the air conditioner on the roof to outfit the council chambers was through a NOPEC grant. So we've been very fortunate, and it's wonderful to hear that we have another, and we have almost matching, and a matching amount of carryover. So I look forward to the administration's projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Carney. Anything further? All right, is there a motion?
So,
Motion by Mrs. Sparty to adopt Resolution 2019-13. There is a second by Mrs. Cameron. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Mr. White?
Aye.
Mr. Song?
Aye.
Mrs. Cody?
Aye.
Mrs. Cameron? Aye. Mrs. Water? Aye.
Very good. Next, the resolution passes. Next is letter E, Resolution 2019-14, accepting a $5,000 grant award from the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District as part of their Community Recycling Awareness Grant Program. And again, this is something Mr. Myers is working on. I will speak as to this. This year, the city was notified that it was awarded a $5,000 grant by the Cuyahoga County Solid Waste District. The Awareness Grant Program is designed to raise awareness of proper recycling habits in communities across the county, and this funding award was the result of an application that we made on February 1, 2019 for a recycling postcard and magnet mailed to every house in the city. Resolution accepting the $5,000 funding is required prior to completing the grant project and requesting reimbursement of grant costs. Now, we did a postcard last year, and we thought that this year it would be a little more effective to include a magnet with the postcard. Our feeling was that many postcards were if they were noticed at all, they weren't necessarily kept. A magnet is certainly something that tends to lend itself to being put up on your refrigerator or somewhere near the trash and recycling bins of the house. That's certainly what I would do. I hope I'm not one. So that is the intent here is to prepare both that postcard with the magnet and send that to everyone here in the city and further the mission of the solid waste district to focus our recycling on those 5 key items. Are there any questions? If there are none, is there a motion? Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Sims to accept the grant, approve the resolution 2019-14. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Wiseman. Is there any discussion on this motion? If there is none, Mrs. Thomas, will you call the roll?
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Mr. Wiseman?
Aye.
Mr. Sims?
Aye.
Mrs. Cuddy? Aye. Mrs. Cameron? Aye. Mrs. White?
Aye.
Okay, resolution passes, motion carries. Thank you. Next is item F, ordinance 2019-15, establishing a policy regarding credit cards issued to the city of University Heights. This is being heard on emergency. Mr. Goff, you have the floor.
This is a credit card policy that we are bringing forward to bring the city into compliance with House Bill 312 regarding the requirements that the state is imposing through credit card policy upon local governments. And for the most part, this is what we've been following in the past. There are a few items in here that are added to what we've been doing in the past in order to put us into compliance with the new state requirements. As part of this, kind of noting on to item B, we do need to have a compliance officer who will be somebody who will not be using credit cards. And for that, Mayor and I are recommending the council, since the legislative body will have to appoint that compliance officer, that appoint Rita Drew to Deputy Finance Director. In regards to the policy itself, there are any particular questions you can go into depth about them. But I think it's pretty straightforward in terms of what we're looking at.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Goff. I would simply add that the credit card policy does have some slight modifications from what had been the policy here in the city, although the policy had been somewhat ad hoc given the various changes that happened in the finance department, the complete 100% turnover of people working in the finance department, and then also with the new year, the changeover in banks. So, but basically, just so the public has a general idea, but as a general rule, individuals working for the city do not carry city credit cards. I do not carry one. There is none issued in my name that I carry around with me. That is simply not what happens, and that's also true for everybody else who works in the city. What happens is the credit cards themselves are kept in the finance office and are signed out and then returned with whatever receipt. Purchases for the wherever possible are going to be subject to the same purchase order requirement as is done for other purchases here at the city. That said, there is a credit card that will stay in the police department, one that will stay in the fire department for emergency purposes only.
Also, one for service.
Oh, yes, and also one in the service department, again, for emergency purposes only. And the reason for this is because police, fire, and service all have reasons to operate around the clock, while our finance department does not operate around the clock. So if police, fire, or service need to make an emergency purchase after hours, they will have a card that they are permitted to use for that purpose and that purpose only. So, so that is why those 3 cards would be out, but any other credit card of the city would be kept locked in the finance office. So, and signed out only on an as-needed basis. And with that, because our deputy finance director's roles don't ever include her using a city credit card for any reason, she is an ideal person to be the one to be the compliance officer, because she will never be will not be making and has not made purchases on the credit card and will not be in the future. I think that basically ties that up. Luke, I think there was some things you wanted to add.
I would just, in response to a question that was asked up here on the dais, much of the language in the policy is lifted directly from House Bill 312, which is the new state law. The compliance officer is a requirement of state law for municipalities that don't keep their credit cards centrally located in the finance office only. So since we have credit cards that are issued to our police, fire, and service departments so that they can make emergency expenditures when needed, we are, as a result, required to have a compliance officer. So that's why that new feature exists. It's fairly boilerplate, and I think what we discovered is most of what was in the state law we were kind of doing already. So there isn't a lot of change that's going to have to occur. Really, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, the most significant change is simply that we are, as state law requires, appointing a compliance officer. So that is something that we are doing, that is new. And the other thing I would add as clarification is that House Bill 312 does accept with regard to credit card policies cards that are used solely for the purchase of gasoline. So just to put a little footnote to the statement about my not carrying a city credit card. I don't carry a city credit card, but I do carry a card that allows me to use the fuel pumps outside over here to purchase, well, to put gasoline in city vehicles if I personally want to do it. And I personally have the car that's assigned to the mayor, usually after the gas station.
Mr. Rob, Mayor, just a question. So if we vote on this, it would be on emergency. Can you just explain why it's on emergency?
Yes, simply because the state wants these post haste, and they gave a very short deadline to government entities to do this. NOACA just passed one on emergency because I was on for that, and we have one here for the same reason. So it's one of those things where the best practice is to have it in place ASAP, and as long as when it comes to our next audit, we will be certain for the audit for this calendar year 2019 that we can be reasonably certain that any auditors looking at this will be looking to make sure that we did adopt one of these policies early next year. Okay, Mr. Sanders. Yes.
I'm looking at the responsibilities of the compliance officer. And basically it says that they shall at least quarterly review the number of cards and accounts issued, the number of active cards and accounts issued, cards and accounts expiration dates, and the cards and accounts credit limits. Okay, that's all well fine and good, but it doesn't speak to any complaints around the propriety of the use of the card, which I think would be included. And then lastly, I'm not clear, and I honestly would communicate this to you earlier, but I just read this. I'm not clear why in that section it's saying that the compliance officer and city council shall do these things.
The idea is that the compliance officer will report to city council. That's what the state legislature wants to see happen.
Can we say it like that? Because, I'm reading this, it's placing responsibility on the city council to conduct the review or part of it. If I may.
Yes.
Mr. Lundgren, if you just change, instead of saying compliance officer and city council, you could say compliance officer shall report to city council.
I think I'm thinking the same thing you are, Luke.
I know
As to what's the
language is-
exact language in the House bill.
That's the language from the statute.
So they don't
So I think council has an obligation to have this knowledge.
In your estimation, Mr. Law Director, is it sufficient for us to just put it on the agenda every 3 months to make us comply with this section?
As long as the compliance officers have made a report.
Right.
As part of their duties.
Is there a, it's not, I mean, the idea is that they report to our council. But is a personal appearance required, do you think, under?
I think the compliance officer could, provide a report that was included in the packets. Compliance officer wouldn't necessarily have to be here to issue that person.
I only ask because the compliance officer works on a part-time basis with everybody out there.
I think if, as a practical matter, if she's preparing a report for council on a quarterly basis. The only thing is, I think we need to be able to demonstrate that it's accurate. So I suppose the finance director can present it. But it needs to be an agenda. I think the auditor will be looking for that.
I would say at least treat it as a motion accepting the report.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps what our practice could be would be to include the report in the packet, and then if there were a question, rather than we would table it and ask for the compliance officer to approve it.
I think that would.
I don't think there'll be any questions, because the only report that is being made is how many cards are in existence, which ones are active. And, that's the extent of the law and the responsibility of the compliance officer. I'm okay with that, but usually the compliance officer is looking for other things.
The compliance officer is also reviewing the individual transactions as we get the monthly bill, as the receipts are coming in from the employees using the credit card. I believe that the language you're looking at, that is just the language that was in House Bill 312. With that, I'm presuming the intent from the legislature was to make sure that the local legislative bodies of local governments were informed about what kind of cards there were and those kind of details about the accounts that exist. So there were no surprise accounts. But one of the functions that the compliance officer will have to perform is reviewing the statements. And I believe that.
So her report is simply include a statement that either her review found no non-compliance or found issues. Will that be a part of it? But I'm just trying to figure out what is this.
I think, it's implicit in the state legislation that what the compliance officer is doing is making sure that with respect to any credit card and any particular credit card expenditure, there's been compliance with the policy. And I don't disagree with you that that's not exactly clear language that is in the bill, but I think you can fix that if you want to amend the ordinance by adding a clause at the end of the first paragraph that simply says for compliance with this policy. So that it would read, the compliance officer and city council at least quarterly shall review the number of cards and amounts issued, the number of active cards and accounts issued, the cards and accounts expiration dates, and the cards and accounts credit limits for compliance with this policy. Each of those categories that's listed in there is something that this policy speaks to. Up to you. I mean, I think it's implicit, but if you wanted to make it explicit, I certainly would have appreciated that.
For practical purposes, does she do the accounts payable anyways?
Yes.
Okay, so that's where review.
And she does review the credit card statements now, so that was also a natural reason why she would be the choice, because if there were something that was questioned, then she would be the one that would be asking questions about what a particular charge was for.
But when it
second to? Oh, I'm sorry, we have to do a motion, a second to do, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so, is there a motion to amend, we have a motion.
and a second, so-
And a second by Mrs. Weiss, so we need to have a roll call first on that. So, Mrs. Thomas, we call the roll on the amendment.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Mr. Weissman?
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee?
Aye.
Mrs. Cameron? Aye. Mrs. Watts? Aye.
How about Mr. Sims?
Mr. Sims?
Aye.
Very good. Motion, the amendment carries. Okay, so the proposed, number 2019-15 has now been amended. Is there a motion to adopt the amended ordinance on emergency? So moved.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Sims, second by Mr. Rock. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Thomas, will you call roll first on the suspension of the rules?
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Mr. Weissman?
Aye.
Mr. Sims?
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee?
Aye.
Mrs. Cameron? Aye. Mrs. Watts? Aye.
And then on the main motion.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Mr. Weissman?
Aye.
Mr. Sims?
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee?
Aye.
Mrs. Cameron? Aye. Mrs. Watts? Aye.
Motion carries. And the resolution is adopted. Okay, but the companion item on the agenda to this is item G, motion appointing Deputy Finance Director Rita Drew as the city credit card compliance officer for the credit card policy. Okay, motion by Mr. Sims. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. Weiss. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Thomas, we call the roll.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Mr. Weissman?
Aye.
Mr. Sims?
Aye.
Mrs. Pardee?
Aye.
Mrs. Cameron? Aye. Mrs. Weiss? Aye.
Okay, very good. The motion carries and Ms. Drew is appointed. The next item on the agenda is the motion to hold an executive session immediately following this regular meeting for the purpose of discussing personnel, legal, and/or real estate matters. I have nothing at this time that I'm aware of that requires an executive session unless somebody else does. If somebody has something, we can entertain that motion, but I have nothing. So there is not anything that expense meetings. Seeing none, we will then move on to the board of directors reports. First is finance, Mr. Gilmore.
Okay, I will start with requesting Finance Committee to schedule a committee meeting.
For what purpose?
We have a couple different purposes. The primary purpose is kind of two-part, looking at possible issuance of notes to ensure the cash flow due to the requirements under Ohio Revised Code that we hold all investments to maturity in order to avoid having to prematurely cash in either bonds and or CDs. And potentially going off of that, it's kind of a quasi-related issue is dealing with appropriations and funding regarding road projects. We recently found out that the $250,000 grant we had from the county, we're going to be using part of the Washington Boulevard project. That Washington Boulevard will not qualify as a county road, and so we need to find a local funding source to make up that difference. We still are eligible for that $250,000 of county funding to be used on a county road. Our understanding is that it is a 50-50 match grant, and so we will need to come up with another $250,000 for the match on that one to ensure that we can use that grant. There are a couple questions that need to be clarified regarding that. Those are the primary two issues. Potentially, that committee meeting might also serve as audit and business conference. That still needs to be scheduled. And it's very likely there might be capital asset policy that might be brought forward. Our current policy was administratively adopted by one of my predecessors. And this is something just came up today, Mayor. I can discuss with the mayor as to whether we want to keep that administratively adopted or whether we want to go back to council for council to adopt. The first two items are the primary reason for requesting the meeting. Those first two items we need to probably do this as quickly as possible. I have discussions started with our banker to get the ball rolling on their end. We need to get a critical on our end because we do have issuing debt with the local legislation that's involved. I don't know if I fully will have all the answers to any questions if we schedule this next week or so, but I'd like to come all those and not slow. Aside from that, moving on to some other items. Friday, we received our property tax remittance for the first half of the year. And as part of that, we received money from TIP, and so we made a payment to the TIP trustees for $186,467.90. Yes, that's how much money we received in off of assessments on the TIP. So the entire amount was remitted out. Is there a question? Dave, a question? With the accounting system, the mayor has now has electronic approval to approve all invoices electronically. So what that is, instead of him manually signing invoices, we're doing that. I have about half the departments set up in the accounting system for them to be able to get in and do electronically their budgets as well as request purchase orders. Though I have not gotten them their actual credentials yet, they do have them set up in the system. And I've been meeting with a gentleman from Cooney and Cheney. Thank you for correcting me. Regarding their services for gap conversion for our 2018 financial statements. And I'd like to thank the representatives from the schools for referring them. And I'm so far been very happy with the interaction I've had with them. And I expect to receive the engagement letter some point this week from them. That's everything I have for now.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Goff. Are there any questions for Mr. Goff? Very good. Next, Director of Law, Mr. McConkey.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to make council aware of a couple of pieces of legislation that they can expect on their next agenda. First is the reworking of our fair housing ordinance. We received comments from Chris Canary from the Housing Center in conjunction with the meeting the mayor, Councilman Weissman, and I had with them regarding our ordinance. So I anticipate that will be in front of council in time for Fair Housing Month in April. And secondly, I wanted to report to council that the Community Improvement Corporation met this evening. At that meeting, the CIC adopted its code of regulations and also approved the form of the agency agreement pursuant to which the city would appoint the CIC as its agent to pursue economic development endeavors under Chapter 1724, which is the chapter ordinances that the CIC is created under. This is a statutory requirement, and in that agreement we are also making it clear that from time to time city personnel and city computers, hardware, software can and may be used for CIC business. Some of those functions are really interchangeable. So an ordinance to approve the form of that agency will be in front of you at your next meeting. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. McConkey. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. McConkey? Very good. Thank you. Next is public safety, and we'll start with police. Chief Rogers.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, tonight I'll report on two items. First is related to training. 2 weeks ago, I attended 40 hours of chief's training at Opata, London, Ohio. This was 40 hours of full week training where it was a comprehensive curriculum that included concepts from leadership to public records retention, a little bit of everything in between. So it's a very productive week. I also had the opportunity to network with multiple police chiefs throughout the state of Ohio, kind of get their perspective on their own best practices and things that have worked with their departments that we're going to try to possibly implement in our own agency. Specifically, one of those things that we're in the process of implementing involves rotating uniform bureau officers into our detective bureau. This process, what it does is creates an element of cross-training while also creating and enhancing operational awareness as well as camaraderie between the bureaus of the agency. So ultimately, we'll have a positive, we hope that'll have a positive impact on the service we provide. So again, just concepts like that from networking with other police chiefs. We definitely have some things we can enhance in the department. Second item to report on, 3 weeks ago I met with Brian Moretz, who is the CHUH coordinator for school safety and security. We put some time aside to really sit down and get familiar with resources that are available from the police department as well as school safety and security. We've also talked about opportunities to enhance safety with the school district as well as concepts like school resource officers. Those communications will continue going forward in the future, and we hope to really work together and coordinate to further enhance school safety. So that completes my report.
Thank you, Chief Rogers. Does anybody have any questions for Chief Rogers? Mrs. Cameron?
I just have a comment. I had occasion to work with Patrolman Ferkel. I understand he's one of the newer persons on the staff. And I'd just like to offer my commendation of his work thus far.
It's good to hear. I'll pass that on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cameron. Any further for Chief Rogers? Thank you, Chief. Public safety fire filling in today for Chief Murphy is our executive captain, Captain Andrew Boyle.
Chief Perko couldn't be here this evening, so he asked me to attend in his absence, and I have a very quick update. Spring's coming. We're looking at hydrant flushing, so that basically will be out in the streets. We typically start beginning of April. It'll take us about a month to finish. That would also include flow testing. Signs will be starting to be posted in about a week and a half. We typically start in the northwest corner of the city, work from north to south. We end up in the southeast corner, which is the Green and Fairmount area. Again, it'll probably take about a month to finish that, given weather and call on. Signs again will be posted in the next week and a half. Hopefully we'll have that out on social media as well. And we'll keep the service department posted as well, in the areas that we're working. That's all I have to report. So you have any questions for me?
Does anybody have any questions for Captain Boyle? Very good. Thank you, Captain. Next on the agenda is service. Mr. Picorni.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a couple of updates for council on 2 projects. One is the tree pruning program, which I update you on every time I think I'm here. They are currently working as on Traymore. They will complete Traymore and move on to Channing and then Saybrook. Their current time of completion is April 1st, so hopefully they will be done by then. Dominion East Ohio is currently working in that same area, the southwest area of the city. They've installed new mains on Traymore, Fenwick, and Charney, and today they were working on a portion of Clare Ridge Oval. Once those new mains are in the ground, they will connect them down at Meadowbrook and loop them back around to the other side of the street. So that will be the next area they work on, is Meadowbrook between those streets. And then they'll be moving over to Saybrook and Channing. So the process is the new mains go into the ground, they test them, and then they'll come back and do each of the lateral connections for each house. So it'll be kind of a lengthy process. But once the mains are in the ground and complete, looped, and tested, then they'll start doing the connections. Last item is April 1st. As I reported last time, is our start of spring cleanup. So starting April 1st, we'll get the leaf vacuum machines back out of the streets, and we'll be doing some sidewalk cleaning as well.
Very good.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Moore? Mr.
Okay, so I live on Fenwick, so I'm in the middle of all these infrastructural projects. I'm the lucky one that hears all the complaints on Fenwick and Traymore and Clairvaux, and I heard quite a few in the last 2 weeks. But I haven't heard anything about the gas project, so it's the tree project getting all the attention. So that, I guess that's good, right? But let me ask you a few questions about the tree project. Are you reviewing the work of the tree trimmers when they're complete with their work?
Yes.
Okay, and so I watched the video on a Friday night, and because I just got my last complaint, and I said I gotta watch this video myself. Tree pruning from the arborist, a very good video. I'm glad that's posted on YouTube. So I have a better understanding of why he's trimming the way they're trimming. So are you going to look for the compliance in that it was trimmed up to 14 feet of the street level, 9 feet of the sidewalk? Because when I was driving down, I guess it's Traymore just past the oval, it's quite a few branches down, and I think it's about 14 foot, and I think that's what was alarming about my neighbors. Similarly, there were some trees that were taken out. One on Fenwick, a beautiful tree, big tree. I don't know if it was, dying or it was weak. I don't know how it was coated, but it looked healthy before there was leaves on it. And then there was a tree on Fenwick that just the entire middle was cut out. Everything around it's still alive and well, but they just cut the middle out. It was kind of dumb. So I don't know if you had a chance to see any of that yet.
I've seen most of the trees that have been done, and most of them have followed the arborist's recommendation. The one that has the top chopped out of it was selecting a leader for the tree. A lot of times the tree will fork into two almost equal parts. It forms a crotch in the tree that it can weaken in the future, and you want the tree to have one central trunk if you can. So what he decided as the arborist was that he took the smaller of the two and removed it so that the main trunk will become the main trunk.
Well, the main trunk was what was cut out. It's like the middle was cut, and then these two things coming out. And it just looks ridiculous. So I don't know.
Okay, well, that was the reasoning
Okay.
on that particular tree. The other trees, yes, we do follow the 14 to 15 foot level so that it'll clear our garbage trucks and other trucks going up and down the street. Otherwise, we're hitting those branches anyhow with the trunk, and they're breaking. So, and it damages the trucks.
And I think what was so
we are
alarming
going
was
that height.
how big those branches were that were cut. So if they're really supposed to be no shorter than 14 feet, why weren't they cut years past? Because the thickness of the branch indicates that it's been around for a while.
This program has not been around forever. That is probably the difference there. We, in the past, did a lot of small pruning. We were doing it in some cases only with service department staff 10 years ago. Pruned almost no trees. And at that time, that's when this ordinance was created to start doing a tree program of trimming and replacement.
So do you foresee now that it's been a major pruning of the tree on the two streets, that the next go around will be as drastic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Most of the lower level things have been removed, and so therefore, obviously, that's not going to be a problem the next time around.
And then my next question is on the gas project. You said the main was replaced on Fenwick and Traymore, Clairvaux. That was on one side of the street. Are they doing both sides of the street then?
No.
Okay,
I'll
so-
qualify the main being replaced.
Okay.
Everybody is still currently on the main that's in service.
Okay.
So they've installed a new main only on one side of the street,
Okay.
on each of those streets. It varies as to whether it's the east side or the west side, but each street will only receive one new main.
And then what happens after that?
They will take the connections, once the new main is in service and tested, they'll take the connections, dig holes in each of the houses, and reconnect the service lines from the houses to the new main.
At the house, not at the sidewalk?
At the sidewalk.
At the sidewalk.
Where the new
At
main
each-
is.
On both
On
sides
the
of the
side where the
streets.
new main is. They have to connect to the new main.
Okay, that's what people are asking. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Sam. Yeah, also, of course, you were talking about trees. I have a tree question, but it's similar to the concern that my fellow colleague just raised. There's a tree, and I think it's on, I think that is university, sort of kind of, but the top was cut off and all the leaves. So I'm wondering, why wasn't the tree just taken down? Or is this the work of our arborists?
I don't know the exact tree you're talking about, but I would assume that it is something that we're doing. Many of the trees, when they start to do the final removal, yeah, they'll remove all the limbs on the tree and then they come back and a different crew takes the trunk out.
So this tree will come down?
I'm assuming, yes. If it has no limbs left on it, it's just a standing trunk, yes.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Mr. Weissman.
Thank you, Mr. Corning. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Corning, you said April 1st you're going to send leaf blowers out to pick up the leaves that didn't get picked out in November and December. So I guess what I'm looking for is what to tell people in terms of yard cleanup. What can they put on their lawn? How should they put it on their lawn?
It is the same as the fall. During the month of April, we put the leaf vacuum unit out and we'll suck up new leaves as well as the ones that were there from last fall. We can't hope that you keep the pile just leaves on the tree lawn, not in the street. Separate the branches into a separate pile and we'll collect the branches separately.
Excellent. Have you bundled the branches?
Not during April.
Okay, excellent. Just for the one. Thank you.
And they don't have to be bagged?
No, but if you do bag your leaves and or sticks and twigs, we'll collect that on your garbage day year round, anytime.
Thank you, Mr. President. Anything further from Mr. McCoy? All right, very good. Thank you, Mr. McCoy. Okay, next is the report of the building commissioner. Mr. McReynolds is under the weather this evening. He could not be here, but he did give me a written report, which I will read now. Item 1. On Monday, March 11, 2019, I represented the city before the Board of Building Standards regarding an appeal on behalf of the Cleveland Community Mikvah, currently under construction on Green Road. Of the 4 items being appealed by the Mikvah, the city did not object to variances for 3 of the items. The 4th issue, which concerns boiler classification, was denied for appeal. The reason given by the board was that the board did not feel comfortable granting a variance for an item which is normally under the purview of the boiler section of the State of Ohio Division of Commerce. The representatives of the Mikvah were encouraged to contact the Ohio Boiler Section to see what resolution could be obtained in regard to the issue. Item 2, the Board of Zoning Appeals met on Wednesday, March 13, 2019. The 2-family home at 14430 Cedar was granted a special permit to allow rental of a 3rd floor unit after the owner agreed to install a folding escape ladder as a secondary means of exit to the 3rd floor. The owners of 2319 Miramar Boulevard were granted a variance for a patio larger than allowed by code. They were granted a 150 square foot variance to install a 450 square foot patio behind their home. The BP America, located at 2643 Lawrenceville Center Road, was able to renew its ability to sell snack items as well as automobile-related items from the kiosk in a U7 local retail district. The Mr. Tire Store, also located at 2643 Lawrenceville Center Road, was able to renew its special permit to operate a tire store in a U3 automotive parking district. The shopping center, known as Silsby Center, located at 2245 Lawrenceville Center Road, was allowed to renew its special permit to allow wall signage for tenants. The Belfair JCB was permitted to renew its special permit to operate a group home at 2602 Milton Road to allow up to 4 unrelated autistic adults. And item 3, the Architectural Review Board met on Thursday, March 12, 2019. There were 2 cases before the board. The business First Watch, located at 13950 Cedar Road, was approved to replace their existing wall signage. They will be installing signage similar to the existing but with a different background, a different colored background. Also, the Speedway gas station and convenience store located at 14458 Cedar Road was approved to replace the existing monument signs on Green and Cedar Roads with similar signs equipped with digital price numerals. These prices will be able to be changed by the corporate office and will eliminate the need for station employees to physically change the sign numbers. The The new signs will be very similar to the digital signs installed at the gas station across the street in South Euclid, which have been in place for some time. And that concludes Mr. McReynolds' report. Any questions about the contents? I will try to answer if I find it all. For the most part, what has just been reported here, not too much more. Well, I was present for that meeting. All right, seeing none. We will move on to the city engineer, except that Mr. Chimney is out of the country until next week. So I don't believe we have a report for the city. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Coyne, do you have anything you want to say about?
I was just giving the update on the gas line.
Okay, well then, yes, you already did that, so very good. All right, communications and civic engagement, Mr. Cook.
Thank you. I'll keep it to one item this evening. Recall a few months ago, we were going to have a Realtors Breakfast in February. We have rescheduled that for Wednesday, April 3rd at 9 a.m. at the University Heights Library. The response has been very good so far. We, I think, started sending out invitations to agents on, I believe, Thursday. We already have about 25 people who said they're planning on attending. And the point of this event is to let agents who are selling University Heights know what's going on in the city, but also for city officials to hear back from real estate agents here to hear feedback on why people choose University Heights or why they look at other areas. I think will be beneficial to both parties. Really, the agents are going to hear from the mayor. They're going to hear from Patrick to talk about the CRA program. They're also going to hear from the president of the school board to hear about the wonderful things that are happening in school districts, because too often when you're searching for a home, if you only do one Google search on a school district, it's really hard. And I'm not the first person to stand at this podium and explain the flaws in the state report card system. So they're going to be hearing the good news from Jody, and I think, like I said, I think it's going to be good for the city officials. It's going to be good for the agents. It's going to be good for anyone looking in Northeast Ohio or looking to sell in University Heights. So again, it's Wednesday, April 3rd at the library.
Any questions for Mr. Cook? Yes, this is Karen.
Yes, sir. Are there any particular flyers, or is this just an electronic invitation?
This was an electronic invitation. The target audience is just the real estate agents. So, we have the emails for all of them, and they were contacted directly, and there'll be follow-up phone calls. So again, I think the word is getting out, and the fact that about 25 responded so quickly, I think our goal is to have about 40 people there.
Thank you, Mrs. Cameron. Any further questions for Mr. Cook?
Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Cook. Next is economic development. Mrs. Drucker.
We are in council. First off, I began another small business spotlight promotion. So this will be focusing on choosing 10 businesses, and then this promotion will go from March 30th to April 30th, similar to what we've done in the past, but it's to highlight some of our businesses and just to give them an advertising. There'll also be a portion of the April newsletter that these businesses will be highlighted. So if they want to do a promotion, an ad, or just have their business name, will help advertise them in any way that they would like. Secondly, a committee's been formed to begin working on the employee manual. The committee consists of Jeff Corney, Patrick Grogan Myers, James Goff, Executive Captain Andy Boylan, Chief Rogers, Chief Perko, and myself. So we'll be meeting every 2 weeks to update the employee manual. One of our businesses is having an event this coming week, Bar None Wine and Spirits, which is located at 2179 South Green Road. Will be holding its 15th annual wine closeout. This is on Saturday, March 23rd at 7:30 p.m. There'll be 50 wines available, and the event includes a buffet, so tickets can be purchased at Bar None in advance. And then finally, I am working with the Employment Collaborative. It's a program through Cuyahoga County, and that's to help our businesses fill positions if they have spots that they're struggling to locate employees. If a business has a position they're trying to fill, they can either contact me and I make a referral, or there's going to be a link on my webpage so that they can go right to the employment collaborative, and then they let them know the type of position, the qualifications, the job description, the hours, any requirements, and then they send that information out to over 40 workforce agencies, which have typically approximately 500 employees that are associated at any given time, and then they help with, they can also help with the hiring process, interviewing, anything that they need, and it's free to our businesses. So I'll be working with them as well. And that's it for my announcements.
Very good, thank you, Mrs. Drucker. Does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Drucker?
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Next is Department of Housing and Community Development, Patrick Myers. Mr. Griffin Myers cannot be here this evening, but I do have a report. Mr. Myers says, I am working with the printer and the solid waste district for the recycling awareness postcards and magnets project. We have approved the proofs and are expecting postcards and magnets in resident mailboxes in early April. The goal of the postcard are to continue raising awareness of proper recycling habits. 2. Myself and our planning intern, Brendan Zach, are working with the county land bank and various utilities on the demolition of 2019 Taylor Road, the former Action Pest Control building. Currently, the land bank is doing its pre-demolition assessment of the property. At the same time, Susan Drucker has touched base with the Merchant Association and neighboring business to keep them informed of the demolition process. Third, finally, Susan and I have continued to review and identify areas for updating in cities and zoning. Thank you, Patrick. So, if there are any questions, I know a little bit about all these, but if there are not, move on to council. So, council reports. Building, Chairman Mark Weisman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Everybody, if you could please check your inboxes, not now, sometime in the next couple of days. I'm trying to schedule a building committee meeting. Looks like it's going to be hopefully in April, first part of April. The doodle poll should be going to everybody. I think the latest one only has one day. So we'll talk about it. But we'll be discussing both how the chicken ordinance has played out and whether to renew, and we'll be discussing the implementation of the new rental ordinance / program that we've been discussing for a while. It's, both long-term items we've been discussing. This will be probably like the 10th and the 19th meeting respectively for these different issues that we have. Hopefully everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Weisman. Civic information. Mrs. Cameron.
Well, I have finally received a date for our meeting that we scheduled on April 2nd at 6 o'clock, so that we might be able to discuss our movement to amend legislation or ordinance. And I'm hoping that the law director will be able to participate in that, or at least provide us with the established information so that we can move beyond just a general discussion.
Very good. Thank you, Mrs. Cameron. Finance. Mrs. Party.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I was planning on a meeting before we recessed to start looking at the planning process, but now I guess we'll have one a lot sooner. And if everyone can look, if this is of critical time, we could meet this Thursday, the 21st, next Tuesday, the 26th, or the following Thursday, the 28th.
Can't be discussed.
I'm sorry, what were those dates?
The 26th through the 28th, next week, Tuesday or Thursday, if they are available. 7 o'clock, we'll find a place. We can go to the annex.
Yeah, we can go to
We
accommodate.
can meet at the annex. So is there a preference if you look at your calendars?
I'm going to both of those days.
You're- Then we'll say Thursday the 28th, that gives us ample time to get the word out, make this a public notice. It will be in the annex at 7 PM. We'll be talking about,
That's the Thursday, right?
this is what's Peaches.
Oh, that's
So who can do the Tuesday? I can't. Well, typical, if this is timely, yeah, if this is of moment, it's time sensitive.
Does it have to be done in the next couple of weeks?
Yes. This is something that can't drag on.
Well, those are two different steps. Can't drag on means you can't drag on.
It's one where if we can't do it next week, I really should have it the following week, no later than. This might very well be something that necessitates multiple meetings. I know it's going to necessitate legislation.
When does the legislation have to be passed by?
That's one where there is no definitive date yet. I've started the preliminary discussions with our bankers at Dollar Bank regarding issuance of debt. We would have to have legislation that would go along with the issuance of debt. In terms of a specific timeline, there isn't one yet, but we need to do this before the end. We need to, if we can, finalize the whole thing before the end of April, is where we shoot for. Which means, I know that kind of crunches the timeline, but don't want to drag our feet anyway.
Can everyone look at Monday the 25th, next Monday? If we can do it now, we'll do it, otherwise we'll go to tomorrow. How is the 25th? 25th?
out of town at a conference. So many conferences and traffic. Skype. That's what you're saying. No, indeed. There are evening activities on the way to.
I mean, it did sound like April 2nd or.
I'm not available the whole first week of April. I'm not Catholic.
So I still didn't get a firm, we have to do it by X date. And I realized that maybe this is for discussion sort of offline to find out what has to be done. I realized that the finance director doesn't want to drag his feet, but, we work on deadlines. So if the deadline's in May, we can push this in May. I don't want to drag my feet either, but.
Into May, we start probably running into problems where we might very well,
Again, perhaps this is a
because
discussion.
right now I'm in the very preliminary stage of this.
Perhaps this is a discussion better left for some time other than the present council. Finance
Right,
director,
so we can't pick a date, so,
Okay.
yeah.
perhaps the finance director and our finance chair, the mayor, can get to discuss it, and then we can get a firm date and we'll come back and talk to each other.
We will, yes, we'll do something.
But I will say, if I hear it's time sensitive and we need to move, then I intend to move. So we need to be very clear about the language that we're using and also thinking about legislation, because when I think move, we want legislation on for the 1st and the 15th probably if we need to.
Part of it is I'm also trying to coordinate with our banker to see how the process goes. This is my first time issuing this type of debt.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
So it is a learning curve for myself.
Okay, well, and hopefully we won't need multiple meetings, we'll need one meeting. So, to be continued. Thank you for trying to set a date. It's not what we usually do.
Okay. Next, governmental affairs, Mrs. White.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a joint service and government affairs meeting last week.
Yes, Mayor. We had a meeting last Tuesday, the Safety Committee, where we discussed updates in the Police Department and Fire Prevention Bureau. It was a very good discussion. I wish we had a lot more time, but we will because we'll have more meetings. So my goal is to meet with the Fire Chief and Fire Prevention Bureau officer to discuss some of the priority items that we could craft ordinances to bring and entertain to the council. So we'll have another committee meeting once we set what those priorities are.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Next is Service and Utilities, Mr. Sanders.
We had a joint government affairs and service committee meeting. We talked about revenue enhancements and all these conversations.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Sanders. Finally, Committee of the Whole, Mrs. Berger.
There is a meeting set May 1st before the next, May 1st before that council meeting at 6 p.m. to talk about committee structure and another retreat. 2 agenda items. It is May 1st. April 1st, I will not be here. Including May 6th. I mean, May 6th.
May 6th.
It was before the next council meeting. It is, it's at 6 o'clock. May 6th, it's at 6 o'clock.
May 1st at
We're
6.
confirming it now. I'm glad somebody's looking at a calendar now. And not looking at calendars, thank you. And that's it for committee of the whole, but there is a meeting before the first May,
The very first meeting, which is on May 6th.
May 6th, right. Thank you.
Yes.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Here. Either of these.
And what may I ask again, what was the topic?
Committee structure.
Yeah, committee structure.
Setting of the retreat. Yeah, it's not the retreat itself, it's the schedule.
Yes, schedule and discuss agenda topics. We're done.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we have reached the end of our agenda items and the end of our reports. I'd like to thank all of you for attending the meeting. It's always a pleasure to serve the city. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you.
To adjourn.
Oh, yes, we do need a motion to adjourn. I knew I was leaving something.
Second.
All right, a motion to adjourn. We have a second. Mrs. Thomas, your call.
Mr. Rock?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Mr. Sims?
Aye.
Mr. Cody?
Aye.